This is the story of 5 best friends who went to a basketball game and never came home. This isn't just another missing persons case. This is about why 5 men might have abandoned a perfectly good car with plenty of gas to get them home and walked nearly 20 miles along a remote mountain road into a blizzard to their deaths. They left behind warmth, safety, and a clear route down the mountain for a frozen wilderness. The question isn't just what happened to the Yuba County 5, but why they made a series of decisions that to this day make no sense at all. In the small, tight-knit communities of Yuba City and Marysville, California, everybody knew the boys. It was a sweet nickname for a group of 5 men who were basically inseparable. They were more than friends. They were a unit, a family they chose for themselves. And to understand the baffling mystery of what happened to them, you first have to understand who they were. The group consisted of Jack Magruga, 30, Bill Sterling, 29, Jack Hewitt, 24, Ted Wire, 32, and Gary Mathis, 25. 4 of the 5, everyone except Gary Mathis, were part of a local day program for adults with mild intellectual disabilities. This is what brought them together, but their friendship was really defined by their shared joys, and their great joy was basketball. Jack Doc Madruga was the driver, and he was intensely proud of his 1969 Mercury Montego. It was his baby, a metallic turquoise and white sedan he kept in perfect condition. His family later said he never let anyone else drive it, and he definitely wouldn't have chosen to drive it up a treacherous, unpaved mountain road. He was a high-functioning member of the group, a former Army truck driver who held down different jobs to support himself. He was quiet, but he was their anchor. Bill Sterling, at 29, was a gentle and deeply religious soul. He was Madruga's best friend. He'd gone on a fishing trip with his dad once to the very mountains where they would disappear, and he hated it so much he swore he would never go back. The idea that he would voluntarily walk into that same wilderness was something his family could never wrap their heads around. Jackie Hewitt, the youngest at 24, was often seen as a follower. He was sweet-natured and especially close to Gary Mathis. His brother later said that Jackie hated using the phone, so much so that he'd have someone else answer it for him. He was a boy in a man's body relying on his friends, especially Gary. Then there was Ted, 32. Ted was maybe the most childlike of the group. He was friendly, outgoing, and famous for his huge appetite. His mother said he'd eat anything he could get his hands on. He was also known for his kindness. His family told a story about a time he and Bill found a stranger overdosing and immediately got him help. The thought that Ted would ignore someone else's cry for help was to them just unthinkable. Finally, there was Gary Mathis. At 25, Gary was different. His challenges weren't developmental. They stemmed from his time in the Army. While stationed in West Germany, he developed drug problems and psychiatric issues, which led to a diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia and a psychiatric discharge. Back home, with medication, he'd been doing well under outpatient care. Despite his illness, Gary was charismatic and often acted as the group's unofficial leader. He was athletic, social, and often the one who got the plans rolling. But there was another side. Family members of the other men later admitted they sometimes walked on eggshells around him, nervous about his past volatility. And even though he hadn't had a serious episode in years, they were still quite skeptical. Together, they were the Yuba County 5. Their lives were simple, centered on family, part-time jobs, and their shared love of sports. They all played for a local basketball team supported by the Gateway Projects program. Their biggest upcoming event was a tournament they were incredibly excited about, with a prize of free sodas. The night they disappeared, they were off to another basketball game in Chico, this time to cheer on the UC Davis team. It was supposed to be a fun, normal night of basketball, snacks, and friendship, a night from which they would never return. Friday, February the 24th, 1978, the air was cold, but excitement was high. The 5 men piled into Jack Madruga's prize Mercury Montego. The plan was simple: drive about 50 miles north from Yuba City to Chico to watch the UC Davis Aggies play Chico State. For a bunch of guys who lived and breathed basketball, this was a perfect night. They made it to the game, no problem. UC Davis won, and the boys were in a great mood. Sometime after 10 p.m., they made a stop that would be the last time anyone could say for sure that they saw them alive. They pulled into the Bears Market in Chico. The clerk working that night later remembered them vividly. She was a little annoyed because they came right in at closing time buying a bunch of snacks, Hostess pies, Pepsi, and cartons of milk. But nothing seemed wrong. They were just 5 friends grabbing some late-night junk food for the drive home. Back in Yuba County and Marysville, their families waited. Parents left doors unlocked, expecting them home late. But midnight came and went. The Montego never pulled in. By morning, a sick feeling of dread had set in. This wasn't like them at all. They weren't the kind of guys to stay out all night without a word. They were creatures of habit. When none of them showed up for their own basketball game on Saturday, the one they had been so excited about, real panic started. The families called the police. The Yuba County 5 were officially missing. The first search turned up nothing. No sign of them, no trace of the car on the direct route between Chico and Yuba City. It was like they'd just vanished. For 3 agonizing days, there was nothing. Then on February the 28th, a breakthrough. A U.S. Forest Service ranger was driving high up in the National Forest, checking snow levels on a remote, winding dirt road. And there it was, Jack's turquoise and white Mercury Montego stuck in a snowbank. The location was completely baffling. They were nearly 70 miles from Chico, way off their route home on a deserted mountain logging road about 4,500 feet deep in a winter wilderness. The scene at the car only made the mystery deeper. The Montego was unlocked. One window was rolled down. Inside, wrappers from their snacks were scattered around. The keys were gone, but the car itself was in perfect working order. There was no damage to the undercarriage, which was amazing given how rough the road was. A road Jack's family insisted he never would have taken his precious car on. The gas tank still had about a quarter of a tank left, more than enough to turn around and drive back down the mountain. But here's the strangest part. The car was stuck with evidence the wheels had been spun, but it wasn't buried deep in the snow. While some reports claim 5 healthy men could have pushed it out, the car was high-centered, and even deputies later had trouble in the area. Still, the evidence suggested they didn't try for long. Instead, it seems they just stopped, got out, and walked away. But where did they walk? Police searched the area, but heavy snow had fallen since they disappeared, covering any tracks. There was no sign of the men. They had abandoned a working car, their only source of warmth and shelter, and walked off into a freezing, hostile wilderness. The discovery of the car didn't give any answers. It just created a much more disturbing and nonsensical question. Why? Why would they leave their car? And where on earth did they go? As investigators try to make sense of the car's bizarre location, a strange story emerged from a man named Joseph Schons, adding another layer of confusion to the case. He told police that he too had been on that same remote mountain road the night the men vanished. He said he had driven up there alone to check the snow for a family ski trip. At about 5:30 p.m., his car got stuck. As he tried to free it, he started having a heart attack. He got back in his car, keeping the engine on for heat, and waited. Sometime during the night, drifting in and out of consciousness, he saw headlights appearing behind him. He got out and yelled for help. The headlights immediately went out, and the voices he thought he heard went silent. A little while later, he saw flashlight beams in the distance. He yelled for help again and again. The lights instantly vanished, and everything went quiet. His story was strange and became more inconsistent as he told it. His memory was clouded by the medical emergency, which doctors confirmed was a mild heart attack. In different versions, he mentioned seeing a group of men, a woman holding a baby, and a pickup truck. He heard whistling sounds. His accounts was just too hazy to be reliable. His story was strange and became more inconsistent as he told it. His memory was clouded by the medical emergency, which doctors confirmed was a mild heart attack. In different versions, he mentioned seeing a group of men, a woman holding a baby, and a pickup truck. He heard whistling sounds. His accounts was just too hazy to be reliable. Were these sightings credible? The families of the 5 men didn't think so. Ted's mother was sure her son and his friends would never have ignored someone calling for help. Still, Sean's story was the only thing that put anyone else on that lonely road that night. Did the men see him? Were they the ones with the flashlights? If so, why would they retreat when he called out? Or was there someone else on that mountain? The party with the pickup truck? Maybe that scared both Sean's and the Yuba County 5. Whatever the truth of Sean's story, one thing was certain. The men were lost in the huge, unforgiving national forest. As winter tightened its grip, a real search was impossible. The area was covered in snow with massive drifts that some reports said reached up to 20 feet high. The terrain was steep and densely wooded, dangerous for expert outdoorsmen, let alone for a group with no survival training. The search was called off until the spring thaw. For the families, it was torture. They held on to the desperate hopes. Maybe the boys found an abandoned cabin and were waiting out the winter. The one thought that was too horrible to really consider, but was always there, was that the 5 men were out there somewhere under all that snow, lost in the silence of the wilderness. All anyone could do was wait for the snow to melt and reveal its secrets. For 3 long months, the mystery of the Yuba County 5 was frozen in time. The families waited, swinging between hope and despair. But as winter finally ended, the melting snow started to reveal the heartbreaking truth. On June 4th, 1978, a group of motorcyclists exploring the back roads of the National Forest found something that turned the case from a missing persons investigation into a tragic recovery mission. About 19 miles by road from where the car was abandoned, they found a Forest Service trailer. The window was broken, a clear sign of forced entry, and when they looked inside, they saw something horrific. Lying on a bed wrapped tightly in 8 bed sheets like a burial shroud was the emaciated body of Ted Weiler. The autopsy later showed that he had died from starvation and hypothermia. The state of his body told a story of a long, terrible struggle. He had grown a thick beard and his feet were severely frostbitten. Based on his beard growth and having lost an estimated 100 pounds, coroners figured he had survived in that trailer for as long as 8 to 13 weeks. He had been alive, all alone, for 2 to 3 months after disappearing. Everything about the trailer was a contradiction. Ted was missing his leather shoes. At the foot of the bed were Gary Mathis's tennis shoes, which suggested Gary had also been there. A table next to the bed held Ted's wallet and watch. There was also a gold watch that none of the families recognized, whose owner is still a mystery. There were books and matches and wooden furniture that could have been burned for heat, but the fireplace showed no signs of recent use. The most baffling clue was the food. In a storage shed outside, investigators found a huge stockpile of sea rations, military canned meals, enough to feed all 5 men for a long time. A P-38 can opener, the kind issued in the military, was found, which made people think Gary Mathis, with his Army experience, had probably been there. About a dozen cans had been opened and some food eaten, but the vast majority of the food was untouched. A nearby shed also had a full propane tank that could have provided heat, but it was never turned on. Ted had starved to death in a shelter surrounded by food and fuel. But why? Was he too weak or confused to get to it? The way he was wrapped in the sheets was also strange. It seemed unlikely he could have done it himself, suggesting someone else was with him near the end. Ted's discovery set off a massive search. The next day, teams found the remains of Jack and Bill about 7 miles from the trailer. Their bodies had been out in the open for months, scavenged by animals. It was impossible to know their exact cause of death, but it was most likely hypothermia. 2 days later, Jackie Hewitt's father, who had joined the search, found his son's backbone under a bush, a short distance from where the others lie. He had likely collapsed and died from the cold long before reaching the trailer. That left only one man unaccounted for, Gary Mathis. Search parties combed the forest. They found 3 Forest Service blankets and a rusted flashlight on the side of the road, but no other trace of him. His tennis shoes were in the trailer, and the theory is that he might have taken Ted's larger leather shoes for a final desperate trek for help. But if that was the plan, he never made it. Despite years of searching, with no sign of Gary Mathis has ever been found. He walked into the national forest with his 4 best friends and vanished. The discoveries had answered what happened to the 4 men, but they left behind a far more disturbing question. Why? For decades, everyone from investigators to family members to internet detectives have tried to make sense of the Yuba County 5 case. The facts are so strange that no single theory fits. Every possible explanation just brings up more questions. But over the years, 3 main ideas have emerged. The first theory was lost and a tragic misadventure. The simplest explanation is that the men just made a wrong turn. Investigators learned that Gary Mathis had friends in the small town of Forbeston, and it's possible they decided to pay a visit on a whim. Wrong turn could have put them on the winding mountain road into the national forest. Now, in this scenario, their intellectual disabilities could have been a factor. Once they were lost, panic might have set in, and when the car got stuck, maybe they didn't realize how to get it free. They might have made the factual choice to walk for help, thinking a town was nearby. This could explain why they walked so far. They were following the road, a path they thought would lead to safety. The scene at the trailer could also be explained by this confusion. By the time Ted and Gary got there, they would have been severely hypothermic and weak. Their brains wouldn't have been working right. That might be why they didn't use the fireplace or get into the stockpile of food. Ted's starvation might have been because he simply couldn't figure out how to open the military-style cans after Gary was gone. But this theory has a lot of problems. Why would Jack, so protective of his car, drive it up a dangerous mountain road? And why walk nearly 20 miles uphill, deeper into the snow, instead of downhill toward civilization? Why would they hide from Joseph if his calls for help were heard? The getting lost theory feels too simple for a case this strange. The second theory, foul play. The feeling that the men didn't end up on that mountain by choice has fueled the most sinister theory, foul play. Their families have always believed some force made them go up there. Jack's mother was firm. "We know good and well that somebody made them do it," she said. This theory has a few versions. One is they saw something they shouldn't have after the game and were chased into the mountains. Another, more chilling idea centers on Joseph's inconsistent sighting of a red pickup truck. Could another vehicle have forced them off the main highway up into the wilderness? In recent years, this theory got a major boost. A Yuba County Sheriff's Department internal memo from October 2020 was made public. It contained a shocking statement. Gary Mathis is believed to be a victim of foul play. This case remains open as a missing person homicide case. For over 40 years, law enforcement had publicly treated the case as a tragic accident. This memo, which was kept from the Mathis family, showed a complete reversal, reframing Gary not as someone who led the group astray, but as another victim. This changes everything. Some investigators now believe the most likely scenario is that the group was forced off their route. Jackie Hewitt's brother Tom has long pushed a theory that a local bully with a known violent streak had a grudge against Gary and decided to take his vengeance out on all of them. In this horrific scenario, Tom speculates that the bully and others may have killed Gary somewhere else, maybe near Oroville Bridge, and then forced the other 4 terrified men to drive deep into the mountains and abandon the car, leaving them to die. This could explain why Gary's body was never found and why the other men seemed so disoriented. They weren't just lost, they were traumatized and running for their lives. The third theory, the Gary Mathis factor. For a long time, the most popular theory centered on Gary Mathis himself. With his history of paranoid schizophrenia, it was easy to imagine him as the one who led the group into danger. Even though he had been stable on his medication, what if he had missed a dose? What if the excitement of the game triggered a psychotic episode? Now, in this scenario, a paranoid Gary might have thought they were being followed and convinced his friends to flee into the mountains. His friends, especially Jackie, often followed his lead. Now, this could explain the ideological flight from a threat that wasn't real. But this theory is now heavily disputed. Author Tony Wright, who wrote a book on the case, put it this way: if they can get in a car, drive to Chico without incident, attend a basketball game without incident, go to Bear Market without incident, how's Gary the problem? I don't buy it. It's a strong point. Gary seemed perfectly normal all evening, and the 2020 sheriff's memo naming him a probable victim of foul play makes this theory even less likely from a law enforcement perspective. Still, the mystery of his disappearance keeps him at the center of this story. Did he take Ted's shoes and make one last desperate attempt for help, only to die somewhere in the vast wilderness? Or, in a more wild rumor, did he somehow get away and start a new life? His fate is the final missing piece of the puzzle. Without his body, the whole story of what happened in the National Forest may never truly be known. More than 4 decades have passed since the Yuba County Five drove off to a basketball game and into one of America's most haunting unsolved mysteries. The case is a mess of contradictions. A working car left in the snow, a long walk into the blizzard away from safety, a man who starved to death surrounded by huge amounts of food, 4 bodies found, and one simply vanished. We are left with the chilling words of the Yuba County Sheriff's Office, which internally reclassified Gary Mathis's disappearance as a potential homicide, suggesting the men were victims of a deliberate malicious act. This shifts the story from a tragic accident to something much more darker, a story of vulnerable men who may have been targeted and left to die in the cold. But even with this new light, the main questions are still there. Who could have forced 5 men to do this? Why was the car left in such a strange place? What really happened in the Forest Service trailer during Ted's final agonizing weeks. And the biggest question of all, what happened to Gary Mathis? Did he die in some remote corner of the forest? Or did his story have a different ending? We'll never know. The snow has long since melted, but the cold truths of that night are still buried. We may never know for sure what series of events, a wrong turn, a paranoid delusion, or a violent confrontation led these 5 friends to their deaths. The story of the Yuba County Five is a chilling reminder that sometimes the deepest mysteries aren't about what happened,